On this episode, we travel to Portland, Oregon for Sunday Parkways. Then we take an extended look at Portland's community and school traffic safety partnership. Stay tuned. We're talking with Linda Genenthal with the City of Portland. What's going on here today?
Well, this is Sunday Parkways, and we have closed the streets to cars, 6 miles of streets in North Portland, and we've opened it up for bicycling and walking and strolling and skating and whatever people want to do.
So, what else is going on in the various parks between the streets that are open for bikes and peds?
Well, there's a whole host of activities at all 4 activity areas. What we wanted to do with Sunday Parkways is have as much physical activity going on. So we're at Peninsula Park, Arbor Lodge Park, Unthank Park, and down at Kaiser Town Hall, which Kaiser Permanente has been a strong supporter. And we've got things like jump roping, and we had tango dancing this morning. We had just a kids circus, and bike rides and walks. We had the Rose City Roamers out with their 200 walkers out doing the 10K. So there's just been so many activities. There's entertainment and music, and people are out having a really good time. I think that this shows that the community is hungry for events that tie and knit the community together. We've got folks who've been in this neighborhood for a really long time, and a lot of new people who are moving in. And so this is an opportunity for us to come out and play together and to try alternative transportation for a spin, and then also really do what you can do for global warming and try to not drive as much.
And is this the first time Portland has put on a Sunday Parkways event?
This is the first time we've done anything quite like this, where we've closed the streets for the 6 hours. It's for a traffic-free environment. Bicycles and walkers are going both ways. It's kind of a riot, both backwards and forwards, and people are having a really great time. And I've heard over and over again that people want this to continue in their neighborhoods. So I'm anxious to see what kind of support we can get to fund something like this and to really make it happen again in the community. I think people needed to see how it works and see how we could really embrace this kind of an activity, getting people on their bikes and walking, and it's proven to be quite successful.
And I've seen a lot of volunteers, as well as police at some of the busy intersections, and all the other activities going on in the various parks. What does it take to pull off an event like this? I assume you've been busy lately.
I've been very busy lately. The thing I think there's several key things. First is to have a city and a leadership in the city who is willing to take a bit of a risk. I mean, this is closing streets. It's a Sunday, so we needed to do a lot of communication with the churches. That's the business that's open on Sunday, definitely open on Sundays. And so it's really taking the political leadership as the first step. Secondly is getting some cooperation from the groups who do the traffic control. So it's the city bureaucracy and also the police. And the police here in Portland have been outstanding to work with. They've just been really great, really knowing what they're doing. And then last, but really the most important piece, is having the neighborhoods on board and excited about this event. And we have heard great stories from people who are along the route and in the neighborhood that they were glad to have us come. So a lot of the work that we've been doing is really working with the community, finding the things that people enjoy doing. The neighborhood associations here have been organizing their own activities in the parks, and things like horseshoes and tetherball, and the jump roping is organized by the neighborhood association. So really getting the whole community involved in this kind of activity. And one of our key members of the community that's done a lot of the organizing work is our community cycling center, and they work with lots of folks who are in this neighborhood, and they're a bike shop in addition to having a whole bunch of programs that get new commuters, new cyclists out on bikes, and they've been a terrific support for us.
And I assume there may be a little inconvenience for people that have to get slowed down a little bit trying to get back to their driveway or out of their driveway. But you say as a whole, the neighborhoods have been willing to put up with that.
Yeah, the neighborhood's actually been very good as long as we've been able to communicate to the neighbors who are along the route that, one, we're coming, and two, that we will escort them in and out of their driveways so it keeps it safe for the people who are on the route, and that they can get their business taken care of. If they need to drive on the day, they can. Also, all of the major intersections are open so that all the transit, all the buses can run on time, all of the transit trains can run on time, and that people can get to where they need to go. I mean, that's also very important for people who need to get things done.
And the event isn't even over yet. Do you have any guesses as to how many people showed up on their bikes or their feet?
There are thousands of people who have come by this intersection up here at Peninsula Park. We've got people out doing counts. I really don't know, but it is really thousands and thousands of people, and people with big smiles on their faces. I've seen families out. There's a very large Latino community in this neighborhood, and so we've seen lots of Latino families out here. Your regulation bike riders and lots of walkers and seniors. We've had people out here on their rolling wheelchairs and really enjoying the day. So I'm excited. We've got a few hours left to go, and I think it's all working out.
We're talking with Greg Graisman, who's with the Portland Office of Transportation. What do you do for them?
Thanks, John. So my job is I'm a traffic safety specialist, and I work in a program called the Community and School Traffic Safety Partnership. And our partnership is a municipal traffic safety program that's run out of our Traffic Operations Division. And we work on 3 different program areas: safe routes to school, reducing driver error, and bicycle and pedestrian safety. Within those, we have 3 approaches. We do engineering, education, and enforcement, and we do that through a very broad community partnership. So our partnership is chaired by police and transportation, but then we also include judges, superintendents of schools, neighborhoods, trauma nurses, insurance companies, medical response, the Bicycle Transportation Alliance, Willamette Pedestrian Coalition, the Oregon Trucking Association, AAA. I could keep going. Our partnership is really broad. The idea is that we want to bring everybody, whether it's the Alliance for Community Traffic Safety of Oregon or Portland State University, to the table. People that have interest in making our streets safer and more livable, that we think we can help facilitate a conversation where people work together to implement some of the best strategies that we can find from around the world. We think that having that collective voice really adds a lot of weight and influence to our traffic safety movement here in Portland, and a lot to our ability to be able to implement things very well, completely, and also rather quickly.
And traditionally, a lot of people might have thought that, traffic engineering is up to the traffic engineers, and why should anybody else worry about what's going on the streets? How did you decide that? Did Portland come about to having this big partnership where everyone's included?
Well, I think there's no magic bullets, and none of this works in a vacuum. We all have to work together, and we all bring our expertise to the table, our experience to the table, our organizational abilities to the table. And so if we were to say that, gosh, we're just going to have an engineering program, let's say, where we have traffic engineers that are researching the best practices from around the world about how to address a particular problem we're looking at, well, if we don't have some capacity to say, well, we're going to partner with some organizations to get really good information out about what this new device is, or this new approach is, or what's happening with this particular change on the street, or we don't have the type of partnership that can come together and do enforcement, let's say, which sometimes can be rather controversial. So to have a much more broad voice opens up the ability to do some things that sometimes are a little bit outside of the envelope. And so if we just think about it in our own little silos, we're not nearly as strong as if we're working together and pushing on strategies that are a lot more comprehensive and thorough.
So what sort of results have you gotten with this partnership?
I think that we're making a difference. I think that we're lucky in Portland that we're making a difference because the community is making a difference. This is nothing that a bureaucrat sitting at a desk can do alone. And so in Portland, we've had a traffic safety conversation for well over a decade now that's been going on in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in business community. And so as a city, we've been seeing very dramatic improvements related to traffic safety, actually even compared to the rest of the country and the state. So for example, in 1996 and 2006, if we were to compare number of fatalities per 100,000 people, well, for the country, it went down by about 15% between 1996 and 2006. For the state, it went down about 25% for the state of Oregon. For Portland, it went down 250% during that decade in terms of the number of people dying per 100,000. And as an example, in 1996 in the city of Portland, 41 people died in motor vehicle crashes in a motor vehicle. In 2006, 15 people died in a motor vehicle in the city of Portland in a traffic crash. So it's been helping across the spectrum to have this really robust community effort related to traffic safety. And I'd say that, we've also been able to push the bar in terms of really talking about even wider spectrum issues. So, for example, public health, really going into schools, providing pedestrian safety training to second graders, providing bicycle safety training to fifth graders that are real curriculum, a week long where you're learning in the classroom, going and practicing skills in a playground, eventually actually exploring your neighborhood. I think it's really given children a lot of flexibility and freedom, independence, but also encouraged a lot more activity level and starting to go more into the public health realm as well. So I think that having this broad partnership and this really robust conversation has been super beneficial to our community. And as we've talked to other cities and encouraged using things like a Safe Communities grant to build a coalition and build a partnership and bring people to the table that have probably been in some silos for time, I think other places in the country have seen that type of success as they've opened those types of conversations.
What have you done in terms of encouraging people to share the road?
Well, we have a number of programs that have worked hard to express to the community and have the community express itself that we all hold responsibility to increase the safety and livability of our city. As we move around, whether we're walking or biking or driving, we're having impact on others. And it's really important, just as a person living in a neighborhood, to have the best impact we can on our neighbors and on our neighborhood. One example I think that is really nice example of how nimble our partnership can be because of its depth and breadth was a few years ago we had a rather high-profile incident where there was a road rage incident between a bus and a bicyclist, and actually a passenger on the bus. It was really quite ugly, and it wound up being front-page news and really sparked this heated exchange in the city. You had these really angry posts online and people were writing letters, and it just exploded really fast. Well, 4 days after this incident, we held a press conference. And at the press conference, we had a school bus with a giant sign on the side of it that said, "I share the road." And at the press conference, we had the Truckers Association and AAA and the Bicycle Transportation Alliance and Willamette Pedestrian Coalition, Elders in Action, the city, the state, all at the same podium, each delivering a message about how important it is that as we witness human error, as we have problems, that we take a deep breath, that we recommit ourselves to having a safe and livable city. And we began an I Share the Road campaign that where we've distributed now about 25,000 stickers that say I Share the Road. We have different sizes, some for cars, some for bikes. And it's really been something that's been positive for engaging that dialogue. And then out of that outcrop, formed this partnership between the courts and the police, where they've identified violations, specific violations, that if you're a pedestrian, a bicyclist, or a motorist, and you're a first-time offender of a violation that's specific to bicycle and pedestrian safety, then you can be referred to a class that's taught by a judge, a trauma nurse, police, transportation professionals, and advocates to talk about what the law is and why. and we're monitoring those people. In the first year, we've served about 2,500 people through that Share the Road safety class, and I think have been having a lot of impact. People want to do the right thing. Sometimes they just don't know. And so I think partnerships and programs like I Share the Road, and then using those types of partnerships and conversations to leverage real programs, in this case where we're combining education with enforcement and bringing up that enforcement value quite a bit in terms of changing behavior, is really where it's at.
Slightly different topic, drunk driving. What have you been able to do to address that?
You know, drunk driving has been one of the indicators for us where we need to make more progress. And so what we've done in the last couple of years is to put together a drunk driving working group. We meet every month. We have anywhere from 20 to 40 people participate, and it's at the same table. You again have the full spectrum of treatment providers, enforcement, and prevention. And I said that backwards. I should say prevention, enforcement, and treatment providers working together to both discuss issues. We can take a legislative concept, for example, and have experts from a full spectrum really dig into it and say, how can we shape and craft this both so that it's most effective and so that we can have likelihood of success with it, to actually doing a very major study with Portland State University. We spent about a year and a half with Portland State University where they did a full spectrum interview process with all of our local providers, but they also did a local environmental scan, statewide environmental scan, national environmental scan, and international environmental scan to see what's happening in the world related to strategies to reduce drunk driving. And now we have a really good strategic plan that's a well-documented and thoroughly researched resource, and a very strong partnership. And so now we're using that to move some strategies forward. And I think, in a year from now, a year and a half from now, as we start to really be able to create some traction with those types of efforts, then I think we can check back in and say, well, where are we now, and how has this effort worked? But so far, it's been really amazing to bring these disparate voices together, and an amazing spectrum of expertise that just weren't having this type of opportunity to talk like this before and learn together before. And I think it's going to have a positive influence.
And you're taking advantage of the resources of Portland State University to, how does that work for you to have a resource like that in the city that you can go to answer questions?
We are lucky. There's no doubt about it. Portland State, we have a number of resources, and I guess, I think maybe other cities can think about their universities as in the same sort of way, whether it's through service learning or through real academic research together. Portland State University has a federally funded transportation institute. Part of that is called the Institute for Pedestrian and Bicycle Innovation, and so it's a well-funded program. It's a demonstration program, a national demonstration program, and they're doing incredible work. I mean, we just had a study come out from there, or they just had Jennifer Dill at PSU did a study where she put GPS units on bicycles. And those GPS units, they put in information about weather and what kind of trip they were on and whether they were riding with somebody. And then the unit actually measured where they were every 3 seconds while they were traveling, and gave this data set that's just so broad and deep. And we're going to be able to learn a lot about how people make choices and how people travel and why. And as we develop our system and, maybe achieve our goal within the next 3 to 5 years of starting to implement 100 miles of new bike boulevards, we can start to see in a very scientific way how these types of changes in terms of transportation management are impacting land use, transportation use, those types of things. So PSU, Oregon Health and Sciences University, through public health work. I mean, it's just for us, really having that academic backbone and wanting to be a data-driven effort where we're learning from efforts around the world, learning how they're performing, what's being measured, and what the results of those measurements are, and then applying that in a local way with real researchers has been just, we couldn't ask for much better than that.
Now, going to a topic that people either love or hate, traffic calming. What have you been able to do in the way of traffic calming?
Well, this summer in the city of Portland, we will install our 1,000th speed bump. And we have I think, a national model program for how to manage traffic calming and speed bumps. So streets in our city, we have a long wait list, actually, of streets that want speed bumps, and you say, you love them or you hate them. I think a lot of times that's sort of this philosophical and theoretical thing. In our city, the times when we get the most complaints about speed bumps is when we're resurfacing a street and we have to grind them off. And people call and say, where are my speed bumps? Because all of a sudden their street is a lot less livable. And so we've had a lot of success in using a very, I think, inclusive and thoughtful approach where we do only apply speed bumps where we have a speeding problem. And so we define a speeding problem to say that 15% of people are driving 5 miles an hour over the posted speed or faster. So if you don't have what we call an 85th percentile speed, that's 5 miles an hour over the posted or faster, then in our way of thinking about things, you don't have a measured speeding problem. In addition, we have what we call a major emergency response route system. And so we've worked with the Fire Bureau to create a network of major streets in our city that we don't have yet a traffic calming tool for. And so what happens is the fire and other emergency response are able to get to any place in our city at or better than federal requirements related to emergency response time. Now, the ironic part is that our emergency response routes have become our worst crash problems, and our highest injury and fatality problems are on these routes where we don't yet have a tool that we can manage and still get them to where they need to go as fast. But that's a very small part of our system. Most of our system is not on these roads, and we can apply these types of traffic safety tools. The third thing has to do with volume. We don't want to put speed bumps on a residential street with more than 2,500 cars a day, or a neighborhood collector street with more than 4,000 cars a day because of concerns about diversion. We've been very successful at not having diversion be a problem with our system, I think partially because we have these. Now, we do have a special program if you're above these where the neighborhood association can endorse a high volume project. And actually with our high volume projects, again, we haven't had a problem with diversion. And so one quick story I think that's really interesting is a few years ago, we went from not having any funding for traffic calming. So neighbors were still putting in speed bumps. They were just paying for 100% of the project to us being able to provide a 60% subsidy for speed bumps. And when that happened, we had to move rather quickly because our construction season is rather short. And after the project qualifies, then neighbors have to carry a petition to people that live on the street. And you need 2/3 of the properties on the street to sign the petition in order for it to be accepted on the street and then do some fundraising. So we had to get through this process. And so we had to use old data. We won't actually apply traffic calming on a street if we don't have data that's at least 5 years older or newer. And so we went out, and when we did, we figured like 10% of the streets that we had old data on wouldn't have a speed problem anymore, and so wouldn't qualify for traffic calming. Well, as it turned out, over 50% of the streets didn't have a speed problem anymore. They had slowed down. I think what's happening in our city is that as we've been really looking at controlling and managing speed on a system-wide basis, it's almost like when you come off a freeway and all of a sudden you feel like you're going really slow because you're just going really fast. Well, what happens when you're in a system where you have to go the speed limit and you get used to going the speed limit? Well, gosh, when you're going above the speed limit, does it suddenly feel too fast? And I think a phenomenon like that might be happening here.
Finally, Portland is now a platinum bicycle city, the only city its size with that distinction. It sounds like you aren't just going to rest on your laurels and backslide.
We're not complacent. We are so far from complacent, it's almost painful. We are going to push hard to put ourselves on an international scale, learn from the best solutions from around the world to implement a world-class bicycle transportation system where all users find our system safe, intuitive, and comfortable. And when I say all users, I mean that it should be a normal thing for a child to be able to ride their bicycle safely and comfortably to their friend's house. I mean that a senior should be able to ride their bicycle to a park, to stay active, to stay physically healthy through life. And so we don't have that model in our country. I think that we need to learn from places from around the world. I think that saying that we've become platinum has pushed us in that direction and given us the ability to go and say Copenhagen and Utrecht and Amsterdam and Cologne and you name it. We need to learn from you. What tools are you using? What tools do you have that can fit our urban form so that we can get to a place where we have that full spectrum of use and where we're meeting their traffic safety records, where they have reduced traffic fatalities to a point where if we look at our country since 1990 versus their countries and their trends, we would have 20,000 fewer people die in our country each year if we had been following their success and models. And so we think that Platinum puts us in that position. It says, okay, we're one of the best cities in our country to ride a bicycle, but I gotta say that bar is not very high. That's not a bar that is the pinnacle. That is not as good as we can be. We can be a lot better than that, and this helps us push us there.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.
And pass them back and forth and do tricks and all kinds of fun.
Wow.
Have you had a lot of repairs to do?
Surprisingly, I've had quite a few.
Now that is cool. Look at all these great bikes. I just love it.
You really had us to do the gone with it.
Perils for Pedestrians is my favorite TV show ever. I love Perils for Pedestrians.